Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
Are you ready to level up your team skill development? Well, Bology is here to support you in driving accountability and skill development. The Bology app is more than just tracking. It's a resource for enhancing skills, knowledge, and mindset across your program. Join coaches all across the country using Bology to simplify training and empower your athletes. Let's build consistency, accountability, and skill development together.
You've had the opportunity to work for some incredible coaches. And I'm just kind of looking at the list already, and man, pretty impressive. What are some qualities that you've seen in some of those great leaders?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I've been really, really blessed is I've gotten to work for just unbelievable guys. Like Coach May just got the Michigan job. He was at that staff.
Yeah.
I was at Louisiana Tech. All those guys are Division I head coach. Coach White's at Georgia now. Darius Nichols is head coach at Radford. Coach Mitzi's at Jacksonville. So like just getting to spend every day with that staff, and then going over to Texas Tech after that, Coach Beard, Coach Adams, Al Pinkins, Chris Ogden, all those guys, just really, really good at what they do. So they're all different. Like every coach I've worked for is different in terms of what they do day to day, basketball wise, their style of play, everything like that's different. But probably the one thing that they're all the same at is they're all unselfish guys. I think they really care about people that work for them. They're really unselfish with their players. They care about their players. So me being able to become a head coach now, that's the one thing I try to be too with my staff. Like I want to try to help them move on to the Division I level and get their pursue their dreams. And then the same thing with the players. Just really caring for them. I know they want to leave here, get to the Division I level and kind of continue their career. So just being an unselfish leader, I think something that every one of those guys that I've gotten the opportunity to work for have, and something I try to do every day as well.
I love that you mentioned that. And thinking back to an example of, I got to play for Coach Dave Bliss for 3 years. And in one of our first meetings at Baylor, he used his hands and he said, okay, Baylor basketball here, you here. Like he made it a point to show the difference between me. And there's a part of that I get. Like we need to be team first. We need to be program first. We need to be thinking about something bigger than ourselves. There's a part of that that's true. But this unselfish nature that you've picked up from others, and I think that's important because, yes, your team has a path that it's on, but your staff and players have individual paths that they're trying to achieve as well. So I think it's wise. I don't care what level you're at. Instead of saying, listen, it's faith basketball here, and then whatever you want down here, it's your program, and then whatever your staff wants is secondary. No, like both things can be true at the same time. It's your program, but also they have dreams and aspirations, and you being an unselfish leader, celebrating, encouraging that. I think that's a great reminder, man.
Yeah, and they're really kind of intertwined in my opinion. Like if we're winning and doing what we need to do with our program, then assistants are going to go on to get head coaching jobs or higher level opportunities. And then the same thing with the players. If they're doing what they need to help the team win, they're going to in turn kind of get what they need to be, whether that's Division I level, kind of the accolades and things like that come with being a good player on a good team.
How often do you meet with your assistant coaches to talk not necessarily just about your players, but to talk about their aspirations, what they want, besides just the interview process where maybe you figure that out? Because we always talk about check-ins with our players. How often do you do check-ins with your staff?
Well, I talk to my assistants kind of every day. So kind of when I'm interviewing, I want to let them know, hey, I want to help. I know JUCO is for players to come here and try to move on to a good Division I or Division II. I want it to be the kind of the same thing with you. I think if you're hiring good people and you sell them on helping them move on, you're end up getting good people to help your program win as well. So it's kind of to me, it's a daily thing. Like if I hear about, hey, this job's open here, think you'd be a good fit for. Let me know if you need my help with it. I heard about it from this guy. If you want to get in the mix, let me know. I know this guy that can help you. So I think it's something might not come up every day, but this time of year might come up 2, 3, 4 times a week. And back in January, it might not be any.
Yeah.
In terms of the amount of time we bring that kind of stuff up.
I mean, it's interesting because you have a pretty high level of humility about you. I can kind of tell by the way that you talk and describe yourself and your program. But I don't think that that's really a small thing. The fact that you have those impromptu conversations with your guys, and the fact that you have the awareness to see a job that's out there or hear of something and mention it to them. I think it's really easy for head coaches to get severe tunnel vision about what's just happening with their team, about schedule, about everything, the games coming up. And we forget to zoom out and to, like we talked about at the beginning, if there are these two paths that are going on at the same time, we have to give them each attention. And so, I don't know, in my opinion, you having the awareness to bring that up with your staff and keep that within your own, like at the front of your mind, I think it's impressive.
Thank you.
There's the humility right there. Not going to pat yourself on the back at all. No, that's good. All right, I'm going to use the buzzword culture. It's thrown around a lot. And if you're a college coach and you say the word culture, you're going to wind up in a meme or a video where the coaches talk about culture. But it is important. And those coaches that you mentioned, the ones on this list, I mean, whether or not they use that word, they're building that thing every day. How does it drive performance in your program?
Yeah, like you said, everybody uses the word culture, so you hear it so much. I mean, I see it on shirts and all that kind of stuff now. But to me, it's the baseline. It's the most important thing about your program. Obviously, you can get really good players. You can have high level talent, but if you don't have a good culture in your program, it's going to be hard to win championships and win at the highest level. But to me, like the coaches I worked for, they weren't throwing the word around culture,
right.
But you just know what it is, just the behaviors that you allow. It's what you, as a coach, what you allow your players to do, what your staff allows the players to do when you're not around. And to me, it's a million little things. It could be, you got a guy in the corner who's wide open for a three. Your point guard drives in there, doesn't pass it to him, and turns the ball over. Does that guy in the corner who didn't get the ball, does he drop his shoulders, jog back on defense, or does he sprint back on defense and get a chase down block? So I'm like, to me, it's that is a perfect example of a good culture when a teammate takes a charge, or you got 2 or 3, 4 guys running over there to help him up. When a guy checks out of the game, does he go shake everybody's hand on the bench? Body language. There's a ton of that type of stuff that goes into culture. And to me, it's got to be everybody's obviously the head coach is in charge of it, but you've got to have everybody on board, from the worst player on the team, or not necessarily worst, but guy that's not playing, to the best player, to the assistants. Everybody's got to be bought in on knowing the expectations and just the behavior of kind of winning players and winning programs. And like I said, there's a million things on keeping the locker room clean. When you get home at 2 or 3 a.m. from a bus trip, the guys clean up trash on the bus. Because you might think some of that stuff doesn't matter. Some of that stuff matters when you got to get a stop. If you let guys slide on stuff early, then they can't do the hard things if they're not built the right way. Outside of basketball, to just little things like keeping the locker, being disciplined enough to keep your locker clean.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be disciplined enough to sprint to help, to be there in a big game when you need it. So to me, you can't really turn culture on and off when you need to. It's something that it's everybody in your program's got to be bought into knowing the expectations of, hey, we're going to be 5 minutes early. We're going to be dressed the right way. We're not going to have our phones in the film room. There's a ton of things. I think you got to address it early. You can't let stuff slip, especially with a new team. And then just kind of, if you get everything tight early, then everybody on the team knows in January, February, like, hey man, you don't have your phone in the film room. We're here to get better. Coach isn't going to be in there long, but we're going to get to the point and get what we need to get accomplished.
Coach Aker at Oklahoma Baptist had a great point. He said, the little things are the big things. I think when you look at culture as all of those little things, with this list of questions, sometimes I wonder like how I would answer them if somebody was to ask me. about like what's your culture of faith? How do you put in your culture of faith? And I would struggle to really give an easier, quick answer. Just do these 3 or 4 things. And I think about Ted Lasso season 3. Seasons 1 and 2 were gold. Season 3, in my opinion, they kind of went off the rails. But there is, in the last couple episodes, there's a great moment where the reporter, who's kind of been always at odds early on with Ted Lasso and then comes on board with him, he says, you know what? The reason we're going to be successful is because of the thousands and thousands of little things that you've been doing the last few years. So like in your program at our school, what is the culture? It's 1,000 little things. And I think if you try to make it just an acronym, one big thing, something that just fits on a t-shirt, nothing wrong with that, with t-shirts that have good slogans on them, but it does need to be just thousands of little tiny conversations and activities and mantras and ways that we live, ways that we act and breathe that make up a culture. So I love that when you said that, it immediately made me think of Ted Lasso and then Coach Aker. Little things are the big things.
I've seen some Porter Mosier. There's a lot of schools that have like a culture wall. And I think it's been cool when they have like, they may have like a brick wall and they put a kind of a slogan or like little tag words that are in their culture, like huddle up on free throws. UNC, I've seen UNC point, like when somebody gives you an assist.
Yeah.
You point at them going down the court, and it's called a culture wall. I'd like to do that here, but I know for sure Porter Mosier at Oklahoma did it, and it's got it's kind of got a ton of their culture words and taglines and stuff like that. I think's cool, and just guys seeing it and it comes back in their mind.
Yeah. I think as each year goes, as you add more to it, because I think a question I had for you is good, and so maybe you can think about this is, you mentioned when you have a new team. Well, now the college landscape is almost always a new team. At the junior college, with only 2 years, like you're almost always dealing with new teams. So my question is going to be, is that how much more difficult is it now to create the culture than maybe 5-10 years ago? So think about that. But then to the wall, I think it'd be a really cool idea that as that season progresses and your culture grows, because I don't think it's just something you can set in one day and then, hey guys, don't you remember we talked about culture 4 months ago? It's something that continues to grow and you add and sometimes take away from.
Right.
And that it would be interesting to see how they do that wall. If they scrub it every year, how much it carries over from season to season. But for you, new team, how difficult is it now without those players that have maybe been around for a while as like, torch bearers to the culture to carry it on? How's that?
Yeah, that's actually, I was just getting ready to say the kind of the torch bearers. I had one returner off my previous team that he was on a really good team that won 25 games, and he was the one returner, and it's the best way to me carry your culture is have guys that have been a part of winning and been a part of you guys doing things the right way. So that way, when you're not out to practice yet, you can say, hey fellas, like you're going to have your jersey tucked in. We're stretching at 3:00 when practice gets started. Just let you know, like, hey, that's not going to fly with coach, versus you having to address everything. You can have, I think player-led teams are the best teams where you're not having to police every single thing all year. If you got those leaders on the team that know what you want, know the expectation, that know the standards, that's when you got really good teams. Because as a coach, at your staff, you can't be around when they're in the dorms and they're upset they're not playing, things like that. And you got leaders of the team and guys that help those guys get rewired the right way, that are still bought into winning, still bought into the culture.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.